just where you go, as long as it's with me. And I don't mind just what you do, as long as it's with me too.
Like, how old are you guys?
I'm 17, 18. I'm 18. I'm 18.
Okay.
I am 19.
Alright. What do you guys do for fun?
You watch movies. Watch movies.
I do too.
Netflix.
Netflix.
Sex in the City too.
Oh.
That was like our comfort movie.
Yeah,
That's
we
rough.
watch that
What a
every
bad
night.
movie.
I love that movie. I love the show.
Go out for coffee.
I go
And
to
she
the.
doesn't get coffee.
I take her out for coffee.
Oh, okay.
I take her out to
Yeah,
eat
she hates
sometimes.
coffee, but
We go to the mall and spend a little bit of money that I have to my name.
I'm 19. I'm not currently employed, but I'm pursuing a degree in liberal arts, and I'll probably go towards sociology or gender studies.
What do you do for fun?
I am a nerd,
Yeah.
so I play video games a lot, League of Legends, and I really enjoy reading. I read a lot.
With little feet I'm stuck in bed. Well, I get told never get old the way it unfolds. I'm a little garçon in my head.
I am an adjunct instructor and I teach across 4 curriculums, and that keeps me quite busy. So I'm also into dancing, into guitar, into piano, and I'm recently picked up the violin.
That's really impressive. I can't play the violin. It's one of my favorite instruments, though. It's like
It
to
is.
listen to.
Not when I play it.
No.
No.
I'm a little garçon in my head. With little feet I'm stuck in bed. Well, I get told never get old the way it unfolds. I'm a little garçon.
I'm single. I've spent the last 8 years working on a PhD and then 4 years teaching. I'm not currently in a relationship. I haven't been in one for a few years now. So there's not a lot on that front to be talking about. But if you know somebody, I'd be happy to meet her. Life got real full, and I kind of focus more on my career and developing myself rather than relationships. But it's time to get back into that.
Oh, I love this story, so I have to tell it.
oh.
Alright, go ahead.
Okay. Well, we met because we have the same friends. So I've seen her a couple times, and she always thought I hated her, like hardcore hated her. But I tell everybody it's just my face. It is. It's just my face.
You just have one of those faces?
I do. I have one of those faces that gives off the vibe that I hate you. So she thought I wanted to punch her, and then one day she came over to our friend's house for like a pool party / bonfire at night. And we started talking about our life.
And that was it. There was nothing.
You couldn't come back from that. That whole weekend, pretty much, I made up excuses to go and hang out with them, even though I really didn't want to.
That's cute.
She makes me happy.
What are you trying to do?
That was definitely a kissy face.
Why?
Well, then give me a kiss, but don't go ah.
Yeah, I guess that was kind of threatening, like, Velociraptor.
Like, what are you trying to do?
On my nose, on my head, on my cheek.
Why in the night sky are the lights hung?
Are you in a relationship currently?
I am not.
No?
No.
Alright, then I guess we can't talk about it.
No.
But that's okay.
I'm really picky, and that's me.
Are you? Do you want to talk about your pick? Do you want to make a campaign while you're here? I mean, I can.
I can.
Go ahead.
I can. I look for someone who isn't annoying, which I would hope would be obvious, but someone who is a person and they think about things and they have a lot to speak about. They're intelligent, they're kind, and they know what they're doing with their life. And I'm a geek, so they have to take that into account.
Yeah.
Which is probably the biggest turnoff for anyone ever.
Why is the earth moving round the sun?
When I was really little, I always had crushes on girls on TV shows and stuff. I didn't really experiment with it or anything, though, until middle school.
Mhm.
But only after I got into high school did I finally really realize that I was gay, because it took me a while to get there to finally accept that part of me.
When I was younger, I always had a crush on, like, celebrities or somebody
Makes sense.
older. But I never realized it until I hit middle school, and then I was kind of like, yeah. Like, I dated a lot of different guys to see if it was, I thought it was the guy that I didn't like. It wasn't. Then I got to high school, and I got my first girlfriend, and that's basically when I knew.
Floating in the vacuum with no purpose, not a one.
Well, I kind of always define it as 3 stages.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 8, I noticed. Because I wasn't really attracted to the people that I should have been at the time.
Right.
And I thought it was really confusing. I never really took note of it because it didn't seem that strange to me. I was 8 years old.
Right.
I knew when I was 10. And I just kind of ignored it at the time because I understood what it was at that time. And I just was like, give myself some time. Nope. Don't want to do this. Don't want to do this with my life. And then when I was 15, I realized, and I couldn't get out of it.
Why in the night sky are the lights hung? Oh.
There was a moment. I knew I was always different because they were always trying to get me to do things one way, and I wanted to do the boy things, and I couldn't understand why I couldn't do those things. And long about the 8th grade, a group of girls came running up to me and they said, Pat, do you know Ricky? I said, Ricky who? And they said, well, Ricky, doesn't he live in your neighborhood? And I said, oh yeah, I know him, I play ball with him every day. Well, we think he's so cute. Don't you think he's cute? No, but I did not tell them that. I said, oh yeah, he's cute. But my head said, Ricky? The mama's boy? The guy I want on my team because he's a great shortstop and he can turn a double play, but cute? No, Terry, she's cute. And that's when my stomach just left me.
Why is life made only for an...
When I came out, it wasn't a topic that was discussed among good families. You didn't talk about stuff like that. You didn't talk about sex. You didn't talk about sexuality. You didn't talk about anything like that. And when I came out, my parents were more concerned about keeping me alive at the time than they were about whether I was gay or not. So they didn't negate anything. They didn't, put me down or anything like that. Not my immediate family. My aunts did. I couldn't be around my nieces. You know what I would do with them if I got my hands on them. So.
I've always been interested in the association with pedophilia.
It's a stereotype that most straight people think and equate pedophilia with sexuality. And look at even in the priesthood, the Pope says like we got to get the gay priests out of the church. Well, listen, no, you don't have to get the gay priests out of church. You got to get the pedophiles out of church, and those are 2 different things. So, but that was. Because in the news, when a gay person was found to be molesting someone, it made big news. So it just became equated with the 2 are the same. Sexual orientation, pedophilia is the same thing.
Right.
And mostly that's attributed to men.
Yeah.
But my family with my aunt didn't make any difference. She still thought I was just as perverted as everybody else.
All right.
Why do I do all this waiting then?
For me, I came out to my family in middle school. I told them that I was bisexual. As I grew older, they kind of just knew, I wasn't dating any guys, and that wasn't really going to happen. But as for coming out to my friends, it didn't really happen until high school. We had like this thing called Quest where you go and kind of share feelings with everyone in your school. It's kind of to help prevent bullying and stuff, and I came out in front of everyone there.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was a pretty big deal for that.
That's kind of cool. Kind of like really triumphant.
Yeah.
I came out to my mom after rehab.
Mhm.
She got out of rehab. I told her I was bisexual. I told my dad when he was drunk, and he didn't remember it the next day. He does now. Now he knows I'm gay. And I told my mom about a year later that I was gay. And they both took it surprisingly well. My dad still is kind of like, he's one of those people that if he doesn't mention it, it's not real type people.
Yeah.
But he's okay with it. I mean, Gabby comes over all the time and he doesn't ever say anything. I came out to my friends 9th grade. And my one friend actually said to me that even though I told her I was bisexual, she said she knew I was going to be gay. And turns out she was right. And it only took about a year for me to realize it.
Yeah.
But everybody was very supportive. I've never...
Why this frightened part of me that's fated to pretend?
I've come out to my mother, my brother, and my stepfather. And they're the ones that are the most important to me.
Right.
I've come out to all of my friends, but any other family besides them, I'm pretty sure that either wouldn't take it very well or that it just doesn't come up.
Right.
It's not something I try to project because I have different aspects of my personality other than I'm gay.
Right.
And I don't want them to think that primarily. I want them to know me as a person before I tell them my sexual orientation.
And also I found that like the grandparents are usually pretty rough. Like people don't want to tell their grandparents.
I would never tell my grandparents. My mother's mother would never tell her.
Yeah.
Because she is, I don't want to say very Christian, but she's very Christian.
Wow.
And she would react badly.
Yeah. I get it. Were your mom, brother, and stepdad, were they receptive? Were they cool with it? Or?
My brother knew, because everyone always knows before you do.
Yeah.
And my stepdad knew. But my mom, she was really surprised. And she probably took it the hardest, which I was really surprised for because I feel like she would be the most receptive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more like her than any other person. And she's always been very understanding with my brother and myself. She was upset for somewhere around a year.
Wow.
And I just didn't bring it up because I knew she wouldn't take it well. I'm thinking it was because my dad, he always said that my mother was babying my brother and I, and that it would be her fault if we turned out gay because it's such a bad thing for us to be gay.
Of course, right.
Yeah. Just the worst thing.
Yeah.
Why is life made only for the end? Oh.
In the 9th grade, my gym teacher wrote on her picture in my yearbook, there's a lot of gay in GAN. And then I knew that somebody else saw it in me. And what she was trying to tell me was, come talk to me. But I was so afraid that everybody else would see it that I then changed my behavior. So I was like I was boy crazy. And I could talk that way with the girls, but I never dated. Well, I did make a choice. I chose to be hetero. I was married for 30 years. I told my mom when I was in my mid-30s and I was married with 2 small children. And I was scared most of my life to tell her. My dad had already passed away, so I didn't have that fear anymore. But she put her arm around me and she said, I knew someday you'd have to address this issue. So she saw it, she did not understand it, but she knew that it was the norm for me. So when I walked out of that courtroom divorced, I walked right out of the closet, and I will never go back. Outspoken till I'm dead.
In the city only for a while.
When I hit high school, a lot of my friends became supportive, but when I was in middle school, I had an experience with a boy. I actually took his girlfriend away from him, and he went to a Lutheran school, and he spread to all of his friends, there's this girl and she's a lesbian, and basically me and her both got a lot of hate mail on the internet, and being younger really hurt me.
Yeah.
And I really value friendships and people in general, so to be attacked like that was new to me. So it freaked me out, and that's why I never could come out to my friends till high school, because I was so scared that they would react the same way, because the school I go to is kind of a small town school. Everybody knows everybody, so even from like little middle school kids, like they were death threats, like they were like saying some really very nasty things.
A lot of people at my old school were really immature, so they asked me a lot of questions that to them was funny, but it's really not that funny. And then when I'm at my school now, I was hated by quite a few people because I was gay, but nobody ever really said anything. Like, it was never like a big open
It's kind of one of those things you can tell.
Yeah, I've heard from people, they're like, yeah, they don't like you.
I heard you on the radio, I couldn't help.
I walked out of that closet with a roar. I'm out to everybody that I play paddleball with, to all my colleagues. I out myself to my students because they ought to know that we're part of their environment.
Right.
So only if I have to go someplace to pick I used to go to this bar in Toledo that had very good stir fry. And sometimes I would have to wait at the bar, even though I had phoned the order in. And there'd be a guy there that would want to pick me up. And it was like, no, this is not going to happen. I'm not talking with you.
I remember my shrink told me one time, Chris, people have never met anybody like you before, and so they don't know what to do with you. They don't know how to interact with you. And so they do the same as they do with anything they're afraid of. They put them down, they stomp on them, they belittle them, they get correct. And so much of my early life was filled with a lot of negative experiences. People at work. I worked at GM, so I worked with a lot of redneck kind of individuals. I worked on the assembly line, and I was shop queer. Everybody talked about me. Not too many people talked to me, but a lot of people talked about me. And, I remember when one guy, he actually grabbed me in an area he wasn't supposed to be touching me in, and then when I told him to keep his hands off, he got offended, and so he just looked at another guy. He says, "Hey, John, you think queers are okay or not?" And then everybody just turned their heads and looked at me all in unison. And I says, "Well, why don't you ask me if you really want to know?" And so this guy and I turned to, I kind of got on my tiptoes and got in his face and just told him when he could figure out a way to die for me, then he could figure out a way to tell me how to live. And until then, he needed to keep his hands off of me, and he could just stay away. So that kind of turned everybody. Some of his friends came up and told me I should have taken his toupee off and slapped the shit out of him.
Besides my mom, that was the worst experience I've had.
That's probably a good thing.
It really is. I'm very surprised because of all of the negative experiences I hear about. I've never experienced them, and I'm entirely grateful because it would be terrible. I couldn't even imagine.
You know what I don't get is that the Christians believe that abortion is wrong, and that you should not play God and take away a child for whatever reason. And yet that verse says they can put me to death because I'm gay. So where exactly does that fit in?
I don't know.
Yeah, they have schools, they have, I didn't mind the whole Pledge of Allegiance, they have, they have the churches and the clubs and the freedom to believe what they want, but when it comes to anybody else, I feel like we should have that freedom too. And, I think that things are getting a little bit more open-minded, but I wish that they would get a little bit more rapid.
I feel like it's been interpreted in so many different ways. You have to go back to the original language and understand what this actually means. If a man sleeps with another man, at the time, women weren't considered people, they were property.
Mm-hmm.
And but men were considered real, they were people. And if you slept with another man, if you treated him like a woman, which is what this is actually saying, then you were treating that man as a woman, as property, and that was not okay.
It's horrible because I doubt that kid even knows what he's doing.
Well, I guess the biggest thing that I feel for these people is sad, though, because, you know, they waste so much of their time and energy trying to fight something that isn't even going to affect them. It doesn't affect them at all. It doesn't affect their God or their religion, whether they're set in their beliefs and going to hell or not. Even if it does, you know, matter in religion, it's not affecting them. And I feel so bad that they have to feel so overwhelmed by hatred, just because people want to feel loved and love someone else. What I've always heard and told other people who think that homosexuality is a choice, it's like we wouldn't choose to be harassed, or we wouldn't choose to be kicked out of our own homes, or, you know, scared to be ourselves. That's not a choice. You don't choose that kind of lifestyle, you know.
It depresses me because I have always been told that God is loving, God is kind, and God loves all of his creatures. And I don't understand how he could hate something.
I think the worst part is the kids.
It is the worst part because they don't know what they're saying.
Right.
They're just doing what their parents tell them to do. They've never thought about it. They've never had to. They've been told this is this for these reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just pure hatred and ignorance, and I guess some people just would rather keep their ignorance and do stuff like that than to actually get to know some people and see if there is any truth to their ignorance, or whether it's they need to reconsider.
Right.
It just seems more intensely negative for those who have a negative connotation. That the group's smaller, but their hatred is much more intense, I guess, is what I would say.
Well, it's bias, bigotry, it's hatred. It's not wanting to use the brains God gave you to learn. There's an awful lot out now about genetics and how we come about, and the fact that the animal world is quite gay. And that ought to tell you right there that it's not a choice, it's in the genes. So to teach these children at such a young age that God hates, as I said before, God, that's a dichotomy in terms. You can't use God and hate in the same sentence. God, at least to me, was always about love.
Right.
So, and blowing up the poor shuttle, you know, and that's the things, when we don't understand things, then we go to God or we go to witchcraft or devil, the Satan, and instead of trying to figure out the physical laws of the world we live in.
I have faith in this generation that's coming out because, you know, just us, we're becoming so much more open-minded, and with the way media and technology and everything has been, I really think it's going to help. Even if it doesn't come for us, hopefully, like, by the time our grandchildren come around, there will be more people who understand, and the fact that there's so many great people out there who are really fighting for it.
Right.
I mean, everybody has to pay their dues. I don't expect gay marriage to happen overnight.
People are recognizing these are people, they're humans, that there's nothing wrong with it. What someone does in their home is what they do in their home.
Well, we see it with the younger generation now. What's the big deal? What's the big deal? And with them, it doesn't even matter that there could be a biological reason for it. They just accept it. So things are changing a lot more now.
Almost everybody knows one by now. You know, everybody knows a gay person or a family member or whatever. And so it's a lot better in that the vast number of people have a more positive attitude. But there are 9 states now that have marriage legalized. and a federal district. There's another 5 that have civil unions. There's another 3 that have domestic partnerships. But there's like 20 states that have taken action specifically, like Michigan has, to either denounce the relationship, not recognize the relationship, or to add a constitutional amendment to against gay marriage. It's frustrating. I certainly would like one. I would certainly like to have the opportunity to get married if I so choose, rather than having other people determine that I'm less worthy of that.
I feel like less of a person.
Yeah.
I do. I still feel like if you want to share your life with someone, you're 2 sentient beings, and you want to share your life with another person, that's the best thing in the world.
Right.
And you're telling me I can't.
Yeah.
Why should who I fall in love with make a difference to you? I don't care who you fall in love with. I'll be very happy for you to be in that state. So why would it matter to you who I fall in love with? Love is love.
Do you want me to tell her?
By all means.
Okay, so my birthday had been coming up, and Brie gave me. She hinted something. She hinted it. We were just laying down doing nothing like we always do, and she just kind of like looked at me and was like, "I love you. Do you want to marry me?" And I was like,
She died.
I started like crying and everything. The whole.
It was the whole "I love you" all over again.
Your love doesn't mean anything to me. If I can make you feel that, how would that make you feel? Because that's how you make me feel every day. Is there someone in your life that you love more than anything? Do you care for that person? Would you give up your life for that person? You need to put yourself in this person's shoes as a human being, not as a homosexual.
Do the right thing and to allow people to be human beings who are recognized and validated for who they are. That who they are is good enough. You're not raping somebody, you're not murdering somebody, you're not harming somebody. Who you are is good enough.
See, I would get married today if it was okay. You want to wake up one morning and be like, "Hey, I want to marry you today. Let's go somewhere and get married," and just go get married. We don't need anything as long as we.
But as long as you can get married.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited for that day to come around.
I'd like to share something I wrote in 1978 that talks about kind of how I made sense out of things. So it's called Only an Act of Prejudice. Never been a husband or a wife. Never came first in anyone's life. And though friends may be far between and few, I stick to my own point of view. Now, I'm too short on experience to understand the entire meaning of a lifespan. But what should be and could be isn't what is. And I'm all too well aware of this. It's only an act of prejudice. Visit our vocabulary, listen to us speak, and you'll find the words nigger, faggot, and freak. Well, language isn't prejudice, but man is. And he takes his own brothers as captive. He feeds them until they're filled with lies, and then frees them to a land called paradise. But this land is no more than a cloned city with high-rise towers built to self-pity, where we learn to step on others, to push and shove, and to hate ourselves for the things we love. My God, what is it we're ashamed of? I'm divided amongst the woman and the man, but I can teach the wolf to kiss the lamb. Does that not say something in my defense? Is it all that wrong to be different? Well, everyone differs to some degree, and there's more inside than my deity. So before anyone sits in judgment of me, must complete the view of their scenery. Throughout the course of my life, I have loved man, woman, and child. I've loved animals, the arts, my car, and nature. All depths of love created are ever so right and pure, so let no person call me diseased and offer their golden cure. If they do say I'm sick, then I shall stand to disagree, because it's them and their ideas they know. It's not mine, nor me. Like pain, love is a feeling. It's not a thought process. And the basic desire to experience it remains constant throughout the human species. Does the way in which we express that desire really make that much difference? Isn't the intensity of a love, how deep it grows and how easy it flows, more important than the label attached to it? Well, there's no greater orgasm in life than to be loved for being whoever and whatever it is you are. Whether you take that orgasm into the bedroom or whether you express it platonically, it's still love. Likewise, whether you express it sexually with a person of similar gender or with a member of the opposite one, it's still love. Because you see, what's really important is not who or what you are. What's important is whether you love another human being. And gay people are equally as worthy of marriage because our love is just as genuine, just as sincere as anyone else.